Call the City Council to order at 8 o'clock on Monday, February 24th. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have 27 items on this evening's agenda. I will now ask the City Clerk to read agenda item number 1.
Minutes of the City Council meeting, February 10th, 2020.
2010?
2020.
Yeah, that's a little loose 10 minutes. Councilor Tenera.
Mr. President, accept and place on file.
Motion made and seconded to accept and place on file. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? No one opposed. It is unanimous. Item 2.
Now is the time set for the public hearing on the petition from Massachusetts Electric to install a new pole and anchor number 79-84 on Berlin Road, which will enable National Grid to remove the pole to tree guy wire. Order number 20-100-7933.
Okay, this public hearing we've taken in 4 stages. Public speaking in favor, questions from the public, public speaking in opposition, and questions from the councilors. I'll ask individuals speaking to state their name and address for the record. So, public speaking in favor.
Albert Galvin, engineer, National Grid Electric, Hopedale office.
Go ahead.
The town has scheduled some tree work on Berlin Road, and we're removing a tree guy that's going across the street. So that'll allow that work, and to maintain stability of the poles, so there's no leaning or falling over in the future. We're installing a stub pole to keep that line stable and upright, directly across from pole 79.
That it?
That's it.
Anyone else speaking in favor? Is there any other members of the public speaking in favor? Any members of the public speaking in favor? Seeing none, I close that part of the public hearing. Questions from the public. Are there any questions from the public? Questions from the public. Seeing none, I close that part of the public hearing. Public speaking in opposition. Is there any public speaking in opposition? Public speaking in opposition. Seeing none, I close that part of the public hearing. Questions from the city councilors. Questions from the city councilors?
Mr. President.
Miss Councilor Landers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I always kind of ask this question. Do you have any timeline on this? I mean, this is spring now, so we can't start putting things off, but what's your timeline?
Don't have an exact timeline, but it does say here that the town's due to do the tree work on that road early March, so I'm sure the
Okay, it's in
scheduling is
public
aware.
services, so I will schedule a public service meeting soon, and we'll get working on it.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Landers. Any other questions from the city councilors? Questions from the city councilors? Questions from the city councilors? Seeing none, close that part of the public hearing, and the entire public hearing is closed, and it is in public service. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 3.
Now is the time set for the public hearing on the proposed zoning amendment to Chapter 650, Sections 17 and 18, relative to livestock farms. Order number 20-100-7915.
Again, this public hearing will be taken in 4 stages. Public speaking in favor, questions from the public, public speaking in opposition, and questions from the city councilors. I will ask at this time for any members of the public speaking in favor. Please step forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Katie Roby. I'm a city councilor in Marlborough. I reside at 97 Hudson Street, and I'm here to talk about this order. What you see behind me is the cover of the code book for the city of Marlborough. The code book is available in the city clerk's office in a hard copy, and it's also available online. Over my years on the council, I've learned to navigate its pages, but for many, it is very user-unfriendly. Within the code is Chapter 650. It has 8 articles and 62 sections. The code contains this statement: all uses...
It's not changing. You have to point it.
Oh, it worked when we were playing the other day. It contains this statement. All uses not noted in 650-17 Table of Uses shall be deemed prohibited. If you search the code for chickens, this is what you'll find. Nothing. Don't give up, though. If you search for poultry, you do get information. And again, the Table of Uses is the best place to start. You can see there's a listing for farms and poultry farms in the agriculture, public, and institutional use section. Notice the number 13. This is where knowing the code helps. You can go to 650-18, Conditions for Uses, and scroll down to number 13. And you can see the definitions mentions poultry farms and sale of produce. I don't think I did. Oh, I did. Produce raised on the premises, but that's not too helpful. If you go back to the Table of Uses, you can see that poultry farms are allowed by right in the rural residential and with a special permit in A1, A2, and A3 zones. While looking up number 13, you might have noticed number 12 listed in 650-18 labeled livestock farms. It mentions keeping, that mentions the keeping of a small flock of poultry less than 10, provided there's open space for their care. And if you think, okay, that's where the code allows me to keep chickens in my yard, think again. You go back to the Table of Uses, and you see that livestock farms need to be over 10 acres and are only allowed in the rural residential zone. There aren't too many residences in Marlborough in the rural residential with the 10 acres. I was recently sent this and thought it was interesting. A person wants to know if they can have chickens in Marlborough. And there were some answers, but nothing specific to the city. You'll notice it's from 2012, so it's a little old. But if you scroll through, you find this. If you name your chickens, you can have them as pets. Rest assured, this is misinformation and is not true. I know many people in the city with chickens in their yards. They like to be able to eat fresh eggs, and they raise them for the eggs for personal use. The matter came up as I helped in another zoning issue, and the same point of chickens being pets was brought up. I was sent information about recent rules that were made in Framingham by a neighbor and sent a request to our city solicitor for help in amending our code to allow chickens so it would be clear what can and can't be done, and code enforcement will have the tool when citing people. The solicitor's office has given us language to amend the code to allow chickens in the city. Number 12 will be amended to add the words other than chicken hens after poultry, and a new definition, number 49, will be added. I realized today that I used an older version of this for the PowerPoint. It should read, the raising or keeping of roosters, cocks, or cockerels is prohibited. The slaughtering of chicken hens for non-personal use is prohibited. The Table of Uses will be amended to allow 6 or fewer chickens in rural residential and A1, A2, A3, Residence B and Residence C, and 7 to 12 in the rural residential A1, A2, and A3, but not in the Residence Business or Residence C. You will notice that this slide has the recently approved Wayside District on it. They're also not allowed in that district, and I ask for your support for these amendments.
All set, Councilor Roby?
All set.
Any other members speaking in favor of the ordinance change? Are there any other members of the public speaking in favor? Any other members of the public speaking in favor? Seeing none, close that portion of the public hearing. Questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Questions from the public? Seeing none, close that part of the public hearing. Public speaking in opposition. Is there any public speaking in opposition? Public speaking in opposition. Seeing none, close that part of the public hearing. Questions from the city councilors. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roby. And thank you, Kate, Councilor Roby, for putting this together. I actually know friends who have chickens, and not necessarily in the city because they can't. But my only concern is basically that we provide some sort of framework, no pun intended, for the housing of the chickens, that they're kept outdoors, not indoors, little stipulations like that. So there's actually a hen house type of thing. So I think that has to be added to this, but I don't consider that to be a significant change, and look forward to seeing this within Urban Affairs.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Any other comments or questions? Councilor Oram.
Thank you. I'm just worried that my pet Harvey, my chicken, is going to be very upset to know I have to remove the name. In all seriousness, our animal inspector, has this been passed by our animal inspector?
To my knowledge, it has not. My guess is that once we make chickens more user-friendly to the average homeowner, that the Board of Health may come in to make their own regulations. The information that I was given, actually in Framingham, the Board of Health was who did this. In the city of Marlborough, as I stated, if it's not in the code, you can't have it. So we need to start with the code first.
And you're correct, Councilor Roby, with the fact that the Board of Health nominates or approves the nomination from the Department of Agriculture for the animal inspector. I would just suggest we pass it by for comment and go from there. And thank you. And the other thing too is roosters can be very annoying, as we know. So with this potential ordinance, we will hopefully take care of that issue within it. I believe it does, especially in residential neighborhoods, because that can be quite upsetting to neighbors if they're close to each other. I can see on a large farm, and I believe you have addressed that as well. So hopefully if you could comment on the roosters.
If it's my understanding that code enforcement really only deals with this if they get a call about a rooster, then they will go out. If they get calls about chickens, they kind of let it go. So once this is actually put in place, I think they will have even more ability to deal with someone who chooses to continue with roosters.
So will this ordinance basically prevent you from having a rooster in a residential zone?
Correct. It will not prevent you from having them if you have a livestock farm, if you have animals.
10 plus acres.
10 plus acres. And the definition in the 10 plus acres was still that the roosters had the ability to, you had to have the space for them. So I'm not sure that the code is a place to include having them in a cage. I think that might be something more for the Board of Health. Personally, we can discuss this when we get to urban.
That's fine. I thank you for taking the charge on this, Councilor Roby. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Oram. Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilor Roby. I actually get this question probably about 2 to 3 times a year. If you're allowed to have chickens. A question that does come up frequently, will there be any fees involved with having chickens on your property, poultry chickens?
Through the code, there will not be. It's possible that the Board of Health could add a fee to register them, much like you register your dog. I guess I can't answer that question.
Some communities actually have that. Some communities connect that to dog licenses. I'll wait to committee, but thank you, Councilor Roby. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Irish. Any other comments or questions from the councilors? Any other questions from the councilors? Questions from the councilors? Seeing none, I close that part of the public hearing and the entire public hearing, and it is in Urban Affairs. Agenda item number 4.
Communication from the mayor regarding a transfer request in the amount of $473,846.52, which moves funds from PEG funds to Marlborough Cable Trust to fund the operation of WMCT for fiscal year 2021.
And Councilor Irish, before I recognize you, I just wanted to mention to the councilors and the public at home, I have filed a conflict of interest statement. My wife Linda does work on the Cable Trust. Since the City Council has moved the PEG funding to the fund that we transfer money back in 2017, I have filed this form annually to demonstrate no conflict of interest, so it is on file and available for your review should you wish to look at it. With that, Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to refer to Finance Committee.
Motion is made and seconded to refer to the Finance Committee. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is approved unanimously. Item 5.
Communication from the mayor regarding a transfer request in the amount of $400,000 from undesignated fund to stabilization open space to replace the money used for the purchase of land on Bolton Street.
Councilor Dumas.
Thank you. I will be recusing myself from this vote.
Understand, please let the notes reflect that Councilor Dumas will recuse himself from this particular matter. Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to refer to Finance Committee.
Motion made and seconded to refer to the Finance Committee. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous to refer to Finance. Keep reminding me for the gavel, will you?
Yes, sir.
Item 6.
Communication from the mayor regarding grant acceptance in the amount of $5,000 from the Massachusetts Cultural Council to fund cultural projects, including the Museum in the Streets.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to approve, and thank you to the Mass Council, Cultural Council, and thank you to the MEDC for coordinating this grant effort. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Understand we will, motion has been made and seconded to approve the generous grant from the Mass Cultural Association and the work that MEDC is doing. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous. Grant is approved. Item 7.
Communication from the mayor regarding the appointment of Lynn Davin as Director of Human Resources for a 3-year term from date of confirmation.
If I could I have the clerk read the letter, please?
Honorable President Ossing and Councilors, I am pleased to submit for your approval the appointment of Lynn Davin as the City of Marlborough's new Director of Human Resources for a 3-year term to expire 3 years from the date of City Council approval. Mrs. Davin began her tenure on Tuesday, February 18, 2020, under my 60-day appointment. Most recently, Mrs. Davin has been employed as the Human Resources Director in the City of Taunton, Massachusetts. Mrs. Davin, an attorney, comes experienced in contract negotiation, office management, and handling the complexities within the world of municipal human resources. I want to thank former Human Resources Director David Brumby for his assistance in the search process and for assuming an interim role while we searched for the right candidate. Additionally, I want to express my appreciation to Mary Ward and Diane Rago for their continued support of the office during the search process. Thank you in advance for your consideration, and please let me know if you have any questions. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor.
Councilor Dumas.
Motion to refer to Personnel.
Motion is made and seconded to refer to Personnel. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous to refer to Personnel, and I would like to recognize Ms. Lynn is here with us this evening, so we wish you the best of luck in the City of Marlborough, Lynn. Item 8.
Communication from the mayor regarding the appointment of Michael Hennessy as Director of Veteran Services for a 3-year term effective February 10th, 2020.
And again, could I have the city clerk read this?
Yes, sir. Honorable President Ossing and Councilors, this letter serves to inform you that I am appointing Michael Hennessy to the position of Director of Veteran Services effective Monday, February 10th, 2020. Most recently, Mr. Hennessy, a veteran, has been employed by the Veterans Northeast Outreach Center as a veterans agent covering the veterans services needs on an interim basis since late fall, 2019. Before that, he served as the veterans agent in the town of Rentham, Massachusetts. Mr. Hennessy served for 6 years in the United States Army as a medical specialist and has earned several military honors. Mr. Hennessy is passionate about helping his fellow veterans and brings a wide variety of experience to the role. I have appointed Mr. Hennessy for 60 days and ask for your confirmation for a full 3-year appointment. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor.
Councilor Dumas.
Motion to refer to Personnel.
Motion made and seconded to refer to Personnel. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous to refer to Personnel. Item 9.
Communication from the mayor regarding the reappointment of Beverly Sleeper as Chief Procurement Officer for a 3-year term from date of confirmation.
No letter this time?
No. That's actually a great point by Council. My purpose for reading the new ones, these are new hires to the city to give people an idea. We know Bev. Bev's been here a long time. We'll talk about her in personnel, and she's been doing an awesome job. So,
Motion to refer to personnel.
motion made and seconded to refer to personnel. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous to refer to personnel. Item 10.
Communication from the mayor regarding the appointment of Melinda Gallagher to the Parks and Recreation Commission for a 3-year term from date of confirmation.
Motion to refer to personnel.
Motion made and seconded to refer to personnel. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? It is unanimous to refer to personnel. Item 11.
Communication from City Solicitor Jason Grossfield on behalf of Councilor Roby regarding proposed zoning amendment to Chapter 650, Section 5, 17, and 18, contractor yards, and the proposed rezoning of land located on Farm Road identified as Map 85, Parcel 12.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's try this again. Move to refer to Urban Affairs and the Planning Board, set a public hearing for March 23rd, and advertise.
Motion is made and seconded to refer to Urban Affairs, set a public hearing for March 23rd, refer to the Planning Board, and advertise. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, Katie, for bringing this up. This is something that we really didn't get a chance to complete in the last term, and I think it's critical that we address this for the small businesses within our city. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous to send to Urban Planning, set a public hearing for March 23rd, and advertise. Number 12.
Communication from City Solicitor Jason Grossfield regarding letters of support for the proposed zoning amendment relative to contractor yards and the proposed rezoning of land on Farm Road and an update on pending litigation.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to accept and place on file.
Motion is made and seconded to accept and place on file. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous to file. Item 13.
Communication from Code Enforcement Officer Pamela Wilderman regarding request for sign for Gerardo's Bakery at 115 Apex Drive, Unit D, within the Hospitality and Recreation Mixed-Use Overlay District, Order Number 1620-100-6443.
Councilor Roby.
Mr. President, thank you, and congratulations to the city clerk for remembering what that all stood for. In the council's packet, you have all of the information. We have a note from Code Enforcement that the sign meets the sign ordinance. Unless there is an objection from anybody, I would move to approve the sign, and let the public know that Gerardo's is coming to Marlborough. I'm sorry, no.
Motion is made and seconded to approve the application for the sign permit. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Oram.
It's amazing how people love baked goods, and I was on social media over the weekend, and if we don't vote on this, my fellow councilors, we could be in big trouble. Just on a side note, but they've been a very reputable business in the state, obviously, towards the Worcester area, and I'm going to vote for it. I'm in favor of it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, no, the sign's consistent with how the Urban Affairs has worked in the past for approving signs that are okay by the building department. So motion's been made and seconded to approve the sign for the bakery. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous to approve the sign. Item 14.
Communication from Attorney Brian Falk on behalf of VD Naturals LLC regarding a request to extend time limitations to June 9th, 2020 at 10 p.m. on the application for a special permit to operate an adult-use marijuana retail establishment at 505 Boston Post Road West, order number 20-100-7881A.
Councilor Roby.
Mr. President, thank you. Mr. Falk is working on a traffic study. He wanted to make sure it was done before he put any conditions into what he would be referring to us. So he has asked for this extension. I would move to approve the extension through June 9th.
Motion is made and seconded to approve the extension of the special permit date to June 9th, 2020. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous to extend the date to June 9th, 2020. Item 15.
An application for an LED sign special permit from William Camuso on behalf of Lincoln 431 LLC, Shell Station at 431 Lincoln Street.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to refer to Urban Affairs and set a public hearing date for March 23rd and advertise.
Motion made and seconded to refer to Urban Affairs, set a public hearing for March 23rd, and to advertise. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous to send to Urban, public hearing March 23rd, and to advertise. Item 16.
Communication from Central Mass Mosquito Control regarding their fiscal year 2021 budget notification and compliance certification policy.
Councilor Oram.
I've become known as the mosquito guy, I guess, on the city council floor, but I thank you for that recognition. It's just showing the increased transparency. It's about 3 to 3.5%. A very valuable service, especially after what we went through last year. So it's just a communication I would suggest accepting and placing on file.
Motion made to accept and place on file the communication from Central Mass Mosquito. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous to file. 17.
Minutes of boards, commissions, and committees.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Accept and place on file.
Motion made and seconded to accept and place on file the minutes of boards, commissions, and committees. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Is approved unanimously to file. Item 18.
Claims.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Refer to legal.
Motion made and seconded to refer the claims to the legal department. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous to refer to legal. Reports of committees. We have a few. Councilor Landers.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. Public Service Committee meeting met on February 18th. We took up 2 orders that night. The first order was order number 191007759, an application for a livery license from Ben's Transportation at 98 Bolton Street. We did have a discussion regarding the insurance. We had a discussion regarding query, which we did get from the chief of police. And then finally, the key was that he's only going to have 1 car, only 1 vehicle at 98 Bolton Street. So as a result, Public Service Committee did vote 3-0 to approve this application. Mr. President, the second item we took up that night was order number 191007513, also an application for a livery license for Bismarck West Royal Car Service to be operated at 33 Paris Street. It so happens that the individual moved out of town, and the fact that he's no longer a resident of Marlborough, we accepted his application, and we basically accept and place on the application on file on a vote of 3-0. And that's the end of my report, Mr. President.
Well done. Thank you, Councilor Landers. Any other reports of committees? Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance Committee met on February 18th, 2020. 4 items on the agenda that evening. Order number 20-100-7927A, communication from the mayor dated February 6, 2020, requesting the transfer of $1,331,902 from undesignated fund, which is free cash, to the undesignated stabilization account. Motion by Councilor Tenera, seconded by the chair to approve the transfer. It carried 5-0. The next item was order number 20-100-7927B. A communication from the mayor dated February 6, 2020, requesting the transfer of $1,331,902 from the undesignated fund to the OPEB trust account. Motion by Councilor Tenera, seconded by the chair to approve the transfer, carried 5-0. Next item was order number 20-100-7928. Finance Committee reviewed the mayor's letter dated February 6, 2020, requesting mid-year transfer for various departments totaling $838,902. Motion by Councilor Orem, seconded by Councilor Dumas to approve the transfer. It carried 5-0. And the last item that evening was order number 20-100-7929. The Finance Committee reviewed the mayor's letter dated February 6, 2020, proposing several salary changes. The mayor recommended deleting reference to several positions in section 125-6 and creating a per meeting attended rate of $150 for members of the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals, and a new hourly rate not to exceed $18 per hour for the positions of detention assistant, parking enforcement officer, mail clerk, and crossing guard. The proposal also establishes four-step hourly rate of $15.49 minimum to $17.61 maximum for the existing part-time Council on Aging Social Service Coordinator, which compensation is equal to a position of a clerk. Motion made by Councilor Orem, seconded by the chair to approve, to advertise the salary ordinance and refer to the city solicitor for proper legal forum. It carried 5-0. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Irish. Any other reports of committees? Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Personnel Committee met on Tuesday, February 18th at 6:30. We had one item on the agenda, and that was order number 20-100-7930. It was a reappointment to the Community Development Authority of Stephanie Ferrecchia and David Morticelli for a 3-year term to date, as well as Paul Slenny for a 2-year term, and then Renee Percadero for a 1-year term. Paul Slenny and Stephanie Ferrecchia were able to make the meeting, and they explained the purpose of the Community Development Authority Board and to see that they oversee the management of the senior housing on Main Street, Pleasant, and Bolton Street. So it was just nice to see what they actually did for the people viewing at home. And then the recommendation of the Personnel Committee is to approve the reappointment of the CDA of Stephanie Ferrecchia in a 3-year term from the date of confirmation, and Paul Slenny for a 2-year term, with Councilor Doucette motioned that and Councilor Landers seconded with a vote of 3-0. And we postponed, not tabled, the Morticelli and Percadero because they were unable to appear. Thank you.
Well done, Councilor Dumas. Are there any other reports of committees? Any other reports of committees? Seeing none, I would ask if Vice President Roby would come up to the podium so I can make a report out for the Rules Committee. Madam President.
Councilor Ossing.
Thank you, Madam President. Feels good back in my old seat, to be honest.
Comfy.
I can say a lot more down here than I can up there. The Rules Committee met actually 2 times on January 21st and February 18th, and I do want to thank in advance the City Clerk and our Council's research assistant for their work done, as well as the councilors to help us craft the revised minutes. Most of them are editorial, and I'll go through those in a minute. But it was one of those things that needed some updating, and I want to acknowledge the work of everyone. So, as I said, majority of the changes were editorial. We did remove the Wireless Communications Committee and roll that function into the Public Services Committee. We created a new Climate Resiliency Committee that will help Marlborough move forward to reduce carbon footprint in the city. We added specificity, I still like that word, to Finance, Human Services, and Veterans Committee descriptions to align with other committees. We added some guidance on consent agenda. We clarified the rules or the motions for postponing and tabling, and Councilor Dumas did an outstanding job with that this evening. And as well as some other minor clarifications, eliminated some gender-specific items, which is great to make it nice and clean. So with that, this will lay on the table. So the council should have the revised markups a cleaned up version in their boxes, so if there's anything else you want, we'll leave this on the table, and if it looks good, we'll vote on it in 2 weeks. Thank you, Madam President.
Is there any further reports of committees?
You look comfy there.
Thank you, Councilor Roby. Let's see, where are we? Item 19? Item 19.
Order number 19-100-7863A, a petition for Massachusetts Electric to install a new underground equipment to feed the streetlights 52 to 57 from existing streetlight number 24 on Donald J. Lynch Boulevard, and the recommendation of the Public Services Committee is to approve.
Councilor Landers.
Thank you, Mr. President. A motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous to approve. Item 20.
Order number 19-100-7877A, petition for Massachusetts Electric to install a new pole and anchor 30-84 on Bigelow Street, which will enable National Grid to remove the pole to tree guy wire, and the recommendation of the Public Services Committee is to approve.
Again, thank you, Mr. President. Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve the recommendation of the Public Services Committee. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous to approve. 21.
Order number 19-100-7838A, the new library update, and the recommendation of the Finance Committee is to accept and place on file.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Recommendation of committee is to accept and place on file.
Motion is made to accept and place on file. Made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? It is approved to file. Item 22.
Order number 20-100-7916, the transfer request of $3,029,000 for the Hudson Street landfill redevelopment. The recommendation of the Finance Committee is to approve.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to approve.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the transfer. Is there any discussion? Councilor Orem.
Thank you, Mr. President. Originally, I was opposed to this. I stand up now ready to vote in favor of the full package. After seeing the information, I was unsure what was actually going to happen with the recreational fields and what the issues were at the landfill in respect to the recreational fields for safety, health, and so forth. But from what I've read, it appears they're going to put in the provisions, as needed anyways, by the state for the ventilation, controlling the landfill, the excess past it. We know there's some areas that go out to Hudson Street, and the parking. By them reshaping and recapping the area for the recreational fields, there will be those extra provisions for the landfill to be safer than if it was just a regular cap. I did find out there's no written report on solar. So in talking to our city engineer, he said it was more of just a verbal, they went out and overviewed it. What I see as a benefit down the road is that they reconsider the rest of the landfill for possible solar panels or some form of solar. And the reason I say that, I was just talking to a fellow councilor earlier, that they have invented new solar panels now, they're from Australia, that can actually work well in cloudy and rainy weather. They're improving the technology. It's amazing. So the way I feel is that, yes, we need recreational fields and we can make it safe there, but at the same time, let's not forget the rest of the landfill, and if there's a way to generate solar power from there, I would also support that down the road. And that's usually paid by the vendor. You just have to be careful with the contracts. So again, I will be supporting the request from the mayor for the total of the 3 million, whatever the total was, 3 million plus, 3,029,000.
Thank you, Councilor Orem. Is there any other discussions from the councilors? Any other discussions from the councilors? Seeing none, on the motion to approve the transfer, all those in favor? All those opposed? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Roby. Absolutely.
So that we have on the record, because I believe it does require...
It's only 6 votes is coming from free cash. But
Sorry, no.
You're all set? Okay. So no roll call vote. Good. In either case, it is a unanimous vote for, to approve the transfer. So the transfer is approved. Item 23.
Order number 20-100-7919, the reappointment of Diane Smith as City Auditor for a 3-year term from date of confirmation, and the recommendation of the Personnel Committee is to approve.
Motion.
Councilor Dumas.
Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve the recommendation of the Personnel Committee. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous. Congratulations, Diane. 24.
Order number 20-100-7920, the appointment of Nusrat Khan to the Planning Board for a 1-year term to expire the first Monday in February 2021. And the motion, and the recommendation of the Personnel Committee is to approve.
Councilor Dumas.
Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous. It's approved. 25.
Order number 20-100-7902, the reappointment of Patricia Carlson to the Commission on Disabilities for a 2-year term from the date of confirmation. The recommendation of the Personnel Committee is to approve.
Councilor Dumas.
Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve the recommendation of the Personnel Committee. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Just checking. All those opposed? It is unanimous. It's approved. 26.
Order number 20-100-7903, the reappointments to the Zoning Board of Appeals of Paul Junta and Robert Levine for 3-year terms from the date of confirmation, in addition to Thomas Golden and Ralph Lofton for 2-year terms from the date of confirmation, and the recommendation of the Personnel Committee is to approve.
Councilor Dumas.
Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve the recommendation of the Personnel Committee. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous and approved. 27.
Order number 20-100-7904, the appointment of Paul Gould to the Fort Meadow Commission for a 3-year term from the date of confirmation, who will be replacing Commissioner Del Genio, and the recommendation of the Personnel Committee is to approve.
Councilor Dumas.
Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve, move the recommendation of the Personnel Committee, which is to approve. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is approved. Congratulations, Lee. And before we adjourn,
Nope, she has something.
Councilor Roby.
Mr. President, before we adjourn, can I just double-check a question on the finance report?
Absolutely.
It's my understanding that this is a report and the actual vote on issues won't take place until our next meeting. One of the items was to advertise. So if we don't move to suspend to advertise tonight, the motion to advertise wouldn't get voted on until 2 weeks from now, which would then delay the advertising for potentially longer.
If you wait, this will lay on the table for 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, it will advertise, and then 2 weeks after that, you should be sufficient time for you to vote it. So it basically would be 4 weeks from now when you'd be able to vote the ordinance change, unless you, yes, Council, unless you did suspend.
If we suspend the rules, we move it up 2 weeks. So if it's a pleasure of the council, they want to move it up 2 weeks. I mean, that's the council's call. What would the council like to do?
Does it need money?
No, it's just if you want to move it up 2 weeks, you make a motion to suspend the rules to advertise.
I know that.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know when we were speaking with the mayor that evening, he had no rush to have a suspension. So if it's going to be 4 weeks, I think that should be sufficient time.
I don't have the red light from the mayor's office going off down here, so we should be all set. So if you're all set, Councilor Roby, then we'll just let it run its course, and we'll be voting on it in 4 weeks instead of 2.
In 4 weeks, Mr. President? Okay.
That's good.
Thank you, Mr. President.
So, almost there. So if I could have the city clerk just give an update on early voting.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Early voting started today. As everyone is aware, it's going to run for 1 week this week from February 24th through February 28th. The hours today, obviously, were finished at 7 p.m., but we'll be open from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Tuesday through Friday here at City Hall. We would encourage everyone to come out and vote. Today was a fairly good day. We had 365 residents who came out to participate and early vote. So I'm hopeful that that number will continue to rise. But again, we just request and urge everyone to come out and early vote. Any questions, or if you need any assistance, please let our office know. We'd be happy to help.
Can't make it to early voting, you can vote on?
You can't make it early voting. You can vote on Tuesday, March 3rd, a week from tomorrow. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. So we would again encourage everyone to come out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Councilor Tenera.
Can I make a programming note real quick? We have a traffic commission on Wednesday at 9 a.m. We have a wildly successful fix. It's going in. A lot of residents are concerned about the parking along the street. So we'll be meeting on that 9 a.m. downstairs in the, what's the name of the room? Upstairs?
It's upstairs, Memorial.
Memorial, okay. Thank you. So Memorial Hall. So whoever wants to attend and are curious, feel welcome to join us. And with that, motion to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? We are adjourned at 8:46. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Take that transportation meeting.